The Montford Point Marines were America's first black Marines. My father was one of them. Congressman Dana Rohrabacher arranged for my father to receive his Congressional Gold Medal posthumously at Camp Pendleton here in California. The speech was given by Lieutenant Colonel Jason Bohm.
We are honored that you joined us today to recognize the service of one of our own, Staff Sergeant Randolph Elder.
Now, just who were these Montford Point Marines?
Ladies and gentlemen, the commanding officer of 5th Marine Regiment, Colonel Jason Bohm.
Congressman Rohrabacher, General Colonies, General Mundy, members of the Elder family, members of the Montford Point Marine Association, the 1st Marine Division Association, Dana Point Support Group, fellow commanders, Sergeants Major, Marines, and sailors. We are honored that you joined us today to recognize the service of one of our own, Staff Sergeant Randolph Elder. It is appropriate that we hold this ceremony here on the hallowed ground in which the Fighting 5th Marines memorializes the service and the sacrifice of our brothers in arms. I use the word brothers because that is what we are. The Marine Corps is a family, and our motto of Semper Fidelis, or always faithful to our God, to our country, and to our Corps, creates a bond that nothing can sever. So just as we remember those of this fine regiment who fell in battle, we also remember all of those who once wore the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. Staff Sergeant Elder was one of these men. He was our brother. But it wasn't always this way. In the days leading up to World War II, the United States was a segregated society in which the African American community faced bigotry, racial prejudice, and discrimination. It was not until June 25th of 1941, just 5 months before the bombing of Pearl Harbor thrust us into the Second World War, that President Franklin D. Roosevelt issued an executive order, number 8802, and first opened the door for African Americans to serve in all branches of the armed services. He stated, "In affirming the policy of full participation in the defense program by all persons, regardless of color, race, creed, or national origin, all departments of the government, including the armed forces, shall lead the way in erasing discrimination over color and race." But even with this direction, the Marine Corps was slow to embrace bringing African Americans into its ranks. In fact, many doubted whether African Americans would meet the high standards that the Marine Corps was known for. There was little doubt about how some in the Marine Corps felt about accepting these men into the Corps when the Commandant at the time stated, "The Negro race has every opportunity now to satisfy its aspirations for combat in the Army, a very much larger organization than the Navy or Marine Corps, and their desire to enter the naval service is largely, I think, to break into a club that doesn't want them." Regardless of the Commandant's protest, our nation's civilian leadership saw the need for equity and allowing Americans and African Americans to serve proudly in the nation's naval service, and announced in April 1942 that a battalion of 900 African Americans would be formed in the Marine Corps once suitable training sites were established. The battalion would be organized into a composite defense battalion consisting of coastal artillery, anti-aircraft artillery, tanks, and infantry to defend overseas bases like those of Wake, Johnson, and Midway Islands that had already seen action against Japanese forces in the opening salvos of World War II. But before the battalion could be formed, it first needed a place to train and recruits to fill its ranks. The site chosen to train the 1st African American Marines was a rugged and heavily wooded area 5.5 acres large, at a site near Jacksonville, North Carolina, called Montford Point. Montford Point was located near a sprawling area near the New River that would soon become known as Camp Lejeune, the major East Coast combat training site for Fleet Marine forces at the time, and still today. The first recruits were used to build the now famous camp of wooded huts so others could follow and begin their training. Soon they would all be braving a variety of threats, ranging from the swagger sticks of tough drill instructors to the snakes, mosquitoes, and bears that inhabited the area. As the camp was built, the call went out, and the country's African-American communities responded. Recruits started piling in from the north and from the south, from all walks of life. They came for different reasons. Some wanted the challenge of being a Marine, some wanted to earn a living, but they all came to serve their country honorably, regardless of still being treated like second-class citizens. Randolph Elder was one of these men. We are honored to be joined this morning by Larry and Kirk Elder, Staff Sergeant Elder's 2 surviving sons and their families. Randolph Elder was born in Athens, Georgia in 1915, and he grew up during the Great Depression. He would work a number of odd jobs, such as being a bellboy, a shoe shiner, a valet, and a cook, and before becoming a porter on the railroad and getting his first taste of California. Like many Americans at the outbreak of World War II, Randolph Elder chose to serve his country, but he wouldn't settle for any service. He wanted to be one of the best. Although he knew it would be challenging, Randolph enlisted in the Marine Corps and would be sent to Montford Point, where he would earn the title of Marine. Based on past job experience, Private Elder at the time was made a cook, a job critically important to the Marine Corps. Because any Marine will tell you that there are 2 things you don't mess with a Marine, his pay and his chow. Living up to the ethos of the Corps, of every Marine a rifleman and a fighter, regardless of what their primary job is, Private Elder was trained for combat and was sent overseas to the Pacific Theater to prepare for the expected invasion of Japan. He would spend his time in the Pacific on the island of Guam and performed so well he was promoted 4 times, attaining the rank of Staff Sergeant. Like many veterans following the end of the war, Randolph Elder was challenged to find work, but the perseverance, work ethic, and commitment to excellence that he learned growing up during the Depression and as a Marine would lead to him eventually opening up his own restaurant in the Pico Union area of Los Angeles. He would faithfully run the Elder Snack Bar for 30 years, raising a family in the process and instilling many of the values he learned as a Marine into his sons. Having gone through a time of racism and bigotry, Randolph Elder overcame. He would raise his sons to understand that the sky is the limit and they should follow their dreams. But his legacy goes beyond that of his immediate family. The hard work, superior performance, and professionalism of Staff Sergeant Elder and his fellow Montford Point Marines broke down the barriers and opened the doors to future generations of African Americans, resulting in a Marine Corps today in which one is judged on the value they bring to the table and not by their race, color, or gender.
Now, the reason I'm wearing this shirt, Uncle Tom, is because I have a documentary coming out on June 19th of the same name. Here's one of the trailers.
I focus on 3 things: belief in God, belief in myself, and my belief in the United States of America.
Being a Black conservative is just natural. It's what my family raised us on: faith, family, individual responsibility, education, service to the nation, an entrepreneurial mind.
being a business owner in America is one of the greatest privileges of being an American.
I think Black Americans should believe and uphold the ideas of constitutional inherent rights.
I always felt that if I worked hard, that I could overcome the circumstances of my life. I never felt that because I was Black or I was poor or a woman, that I couldn't do something.
Humans are naturally conservative. You grow up being told to work hard for what you got. You don't grow up being told you're gonna get something because you just want it. Like, you ain't gotta work for it. But Democrats, they say, hey, we give you everything for free. That ain't reality.
Be the first in your hood with Uncle Tom merch. I'm Larry Elder, and we've got a country to save. I'll see you next time.